Welcome, wonderful students, to Lesson 9 of the Living World topic. This is the first lesson on our first biome of this topic, tropical rainforests. Over this series of lessons, we will be exploring what makes rainforests special, what challenges they face, and how we can protect them from damage in the future. In this lesson, we will be simply exploring what a rainforest is and why they are found where they are in the world. Please take a moment to write the date, title and learning objective and have a pen and paper ready to learn. Time to review prior learning. Please write 1 to 10, answer the questions from memory, and then mark your answers. Game time. Number 1. The living parts of an ecosystem are its biotic features. Biotic means living. 2. One role of the producers is to provide food for animals, also known as fauna. 3. The role of decomposers is to break down dead organic matter so that it can be absorbed through the roots of plants in the soil as nutrients. 4. An invasive species is one that is not naturally a part of an ecosystem and damages the natural balance within it. For example, a snake in Florida, which kills other animals. 5. The nutrient cycle describes how energy moves through a food web, from soil or water to producers to consumers and back. 6. Building sea defenses and planting drought-resistant crops are examples of climate change adaptations. 7. The wolf was reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in the USA, leading to a significant rise in biodiversity and the amount of vegetation. If you remember, that's because it reduced the population of large mammals which ate too much of the grass and vegetation. 8. Eutrophication is the excess of nutrients in a water body, which causes algal blooms that kill plants, leading to a loss of oxygen. 9. The environmental law in the UK that restricts pollution from factories is called the Environmental Protection Act. 10. The North-South divide is an example of a regional difference in the UK. Please give yourselves a mark out of 10. If you got 8 or more, excellent. Please write any questions you got wrong and their answers, and then test yourselves on those answers repeatedly. To introduce this lesson, I'm going to show you 2 photos of different types of forest. One of them is a rainforest, the other one is a temperate forest like we find in England. Answer the questions about these 2 photos. Go for it. Okay, so number 1. What do you think a rainforest is? This is a rainforest. What do you think makes a rainforest as opposed to a temperate forest? Well, you should have talked about the temperature and the fact that it rains a lot. You may have talked about the size of the trees or the amount of trees or the biodiversity. Either way, you will understand this better by the end of the lesson. 2. How is a rainforest different to a temperate forest in the UK? Well, there are a few differences. The temperature, it's usually hotter in a rainforest. The amount of rainfall, it rains much more regularly in rainforests than in temperate forests. And biodiversity is higher in rainforests. There are other small differences which we will explore. 3. Which forest, top or bottom, has more biodiversity? Well, first of all, you should have noted that the top one is the rainforest, and it has far more biodiversity than the bottom one. 4. Where in the world are rainforests located? Well, based on last lesson, in which we discussed why the biomes are located where they are, you should remember that rainforests are located around the equator. 5. Why are rainforests so hot? You should be able to explain that rainforests are hot because they are along the equator, which is where sunlight is direct. As a result, the amount of energy from the sun is focused on a small area and has to travel through the least amount of atmosphere, meaning that most sunlight reaches the earth, heats it up the most, and consequently rainforests are hot. Okay, in this lesson we're going to find out specifically what a rainforest is and also where they are in the world. This is repetitive, so you will have understood and learned about these ideas before, but repetition builds memory. Let's go. So first of all, what is a rainforest? There are a few key features that define a rainforest. The first one is that rainforests are located along the equator. if a forest is located outside of the tropics, and especially away from 10 degrees north and south of the equator, it is not a rainforest. Second fact about rainforests is they are hot and wet all year round. Third fact about a rainforest is they have very high biodiversity. And finally, rainforests have evergreen trees, which means they have trees that never lose their leaves because there are no seasons, no summer or winter. It is a constant temperature and relatively constant rainfall as well. Here's a climate graph of a city in Brazil that is right in the middle of the Amazon rainforest along the equator. As you can see, there is a constant temperature throughout the year. The pattern of precipitation does fluctuate from highs of more than 300 millimeters of precipitation a month to about 160 millimeters of precipitation a month. Nonetheless, there is more than 100 millimeters of rainfall every month in the rainforest. Okay. Second idea. Why do rainforests have variable rainfall? If you look here, although the temperature remains constant, the rainfall does change slightly, so I want you to understand that slightly more deeply. Start by looking at the tilt of the Earth's axis. In a previous lesson, we said how the Earth is actually tilted on its axis, this invisible line that goes through the middle of the Earth. That means that the sunlight hits different parts of the Earth at different angles depending on whether they are in summer or winter. Look at the equator here, at A. In summer, at the equator, the sunlight of the sun is actually hitting the Earth just north of the equator. And in winter, the sunlight is hitting the Earth directly just south of the equator. This is important because the hottest point of the Earth is where the sunlight hits most directly. And as you know, when air heats up, it becomes less dense and rises. So let's look at this picture here. At the equator, you have the hottest and most direct sunlight. But the direct sunlight moves north and south of the equator depending on whether you're in summer or winter. In the middle of June, the sunlight is directly overhead at 23.5 degrees north of the equator. So that gets the most direct sunlight, meaning that it's the hottest point. The air is the least dense, it rises, so you get lower air pressure there. Consequently, the clouds and the rainfall move slightly north of the equator, and so you get slightly less rainfall at the equator in the middle of summer, June. This is the northern hemisphere's summer in June. And this area slightly north of the equator gets the most rainfall, because the angle of the Earth means that in summer, just north of the equator gets the most direct sunlight. So it has the lowest air pressure, rising air, condensing air, rainfall. In winter, or the southern hemisphere summer, December, the sunlight is now directly overhead at 23.5 degrees south of the Tropic of Capricorn. Consequently, there is the lowest air pressure around here. So the air rises most strongly here because it's the hottest here. So the rainfall moves slightly south of the equator. As a result, in December, there's slightly lower rainfall as well at the rainforest. So because of the angle of the sun, the pattern of heaviest rainfall moves slightly north in summer and slightly south of the equator in winter, meaning that throughout the months of the year, there are fluctuations in the amount of precipitation that the rainforests get. However, throughout the year, the equator remains an area of low pressure because it is still being heated intensely by the sun, and so it still gets rainfall. But there are periods with slightly less, when the sun is directly over the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, and there are periods where there is slightly more, where the sunlight is directly over the equator. That is an important idea. Because of this movement of the sunlight between the tropics, you get this fluctuation of rainfall, such that In the summer, you get slightly lower rainfall, and in the winter, you get slightly lower rainfall, and in these months here, you get the highest rainfall. So what is the global distribution of rainforests? This is a recap of what we've done in the previous lesson. The blue biome, tropical rainforest, is mostly located between 10 degrees north and 10 degrees south of the equator. The Amazon, the Congo rainforest, the Malaysian and Indonesian rainforests. So let's review. Why is this the case? Because at the equator you have direct sunlight, leading to warm air, expanding, becoming less dense, rising. As it rises, it cools. It condenses and forms clouds and rain. Below this rising air is an area of low air pressure. That's why you have regular rainfall and intense heat at the equator, and so you get the tropical rainforest biome there. Okay, time to assess learning. Take a pen, write your answers to these questions, and then we will discuss the answers. Okay, first question. Why is there regular rainfall along the equator? You should have said that because the sunlight is direct at the equator, the air becomes the least dense there because it's the hottest, so it rises, and because it's filled with water vapor, when it rises, the water vapor cools and condenses, forms clouds, and so you get regular rainfall. Second question. Why does the angle of sunlight move to the Tropic of Cancer in summer and Capricorn in winter throughout the year? The angle of the sun to the Earth changes because the Earth is tilted on its axis. It's not facing the sun directly. Question 3. Give me a couple of features of a rainforest, a tropical rainforest. So you should have said that a tropical rainforest has a minimum of 100 millimeters of rainfall per month. A tropical rainforest is found along the equator. A tropical rainforest has evergreen trees. And finally, a tropical rainforest has a hot and wet climate with no seasons. Okay, time to embed learning. I'm going to show you some questions. Answer them using your understanding from this lesson, and then mark your answers. Game time. So number 1. Make sure you've got these 2 points and an example. Very important when it says describe the distribution of something, you give a specific example. 2. Why do tropical rainforests have constant annual temperatures? Angle of sun, difference in energy. 3. Why does the location of tropical rainforest increase biodiversity? So you should have said that there's a hot climate through the year. You should have said about the heavy rainfall throughout the year. Therefore, you should have said that the combination of heavy rainfall and high temperature creates the perfect environment for plants to grow easily. Because there are many different types of plants, there's lots of food, producers, for consumers to eat. So the biodiversity increases. Okay, from this lesson, write 2 questions. Answer them from memory and then test yourselves on them in a week. Thank you so much for joining me this lesson. Next lesson, we're going to build on our understanding of rainforests by finding out about something called the layers of the rainforests. And we're going to answer a mystery, which is, in such a biodiverse biome, why is the soil infertile? Join me then.